Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
And I'm Dick West.
You're who?
I said Derek Master.
Yeah, your mic is all sorts of janked.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound like a robot. And this is Screen Bloody Movies, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and Derek talks like a robot.
I've got some tendencies. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Sarah hates when I talk like a robot. When I did that bit at the airport, she was not a fan.
Oh.
She would be glad to know that you're talking about it still on this podcast.
I think she would be super, super happy about it. All right, guys, how you doing today?
Doing good. I got some 68. I got some exciting stuff coming up tomorrow on my day off, so I'm excited.
Awesome. Derek, how are you? I turned into Spider-Man for a second there.
I'm okay, man. I'm here.
It's good. It's good. I am also here, and Freddy's here, chilling behind us. So, guys, we don't have a whole lot of horror news. So we'll get to that in a second, and we'll get to today's feature film, the very easily found Fear of the Dark. It's just the most easiest movie I've ever had to search for in my life. Okay. So, without further ado, let's get into the horror news. So, horror news is a little light this week. It's better than last week, but not by much. That's like saying getting kicked in the groin is better than getting kicked in the face. Or flip those, whichever one you think would hurt worse. So, let's see what order we're going to do this in. Oh, here's how we're going to start it. Guys, do you remember when we were kids? And especially you and I, Derek.
Fondly.
You remember when we were kids and a new movie would come out? And during that new movie, they would have all sorts of fun merchandise. You know, you'd have your games, you'd have backpacks, you'd have action figures. And the thing that's a lost art that is now coming back, you would have breakfast cereals. Right? Do you remember this?
Fun breakfast cereals, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, you'd have your Ghostbuster cereal. Or your Batman cereal. Or your Popeye cereal, which I think they still make.
I don't know if I've ever eaten Popeye cereal, but...
Oh, it's the worst, man. It's kind of like those Golden Grams, or not Golden Grams.
I have. Yeah, no, I have. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, they are Golden Grams. Yeah, kind of like Golden Grams. Yeah. They're in a bag with Popeye's face on them.
Kind of like, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Like, they couldn't even fucking get him a box. They're just like, throw him in a bag. No marshmallows either. Fucking Popeye's all about spinach. She'll make that shit dry and just throw it in there.
Oh my gosh. Spinach is a good source of iron.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
the reason I bring this up is because now that trend is kind of returning, and we've got a cool one that is coming right now.
Munster cereal.
Munster cereal. No, it's not Munster cereal.
Oh.
Guys, it is Scream cereal.
Wow.
What?
Look
All right,
at
I'm
that.
having a hard time deciphering what it is.
It is like Crunchies,
Like
little strawberries. Strawberries in Scream is what it's called. That box is phenomenal.
Oh my gosh.
By the
The
way.
box is pretty cool.
The box is phenomenal. Um, so that is coming out. Let's see what it says. I think it's only available. It's now available for pre-order in the UK. So I don't know if we can get it here in the States. It's $8.95 or £8 and
Oh, for like
95.
maybe
Yeah,
like 12
yeah.
bucks or something like that.
Yep. Basically, yep. Uh, but I just thought that was a fun little thing. He's a real serial killer.
Oh my god.
Thank you, thank you.
Mm-mm.
That's why I get paid the big bucks.
Right? Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I am getting a little bit tired of how much they're advertising the Scream movie to me.
That's just because you're terrified of him. That's
Well,
just due to
I'm
your
just
horror.
saying. I'm just
I'm
saying.
excited
I
for it.
really,
Barely watch TV and then you don't even know.
That's true.
yeah.
Like, I've only seen it
It's
like 3 or 4
everywhere.
times.
You can't get away from it. It's everywhere.
To be fair, Halloween Kills was everywhere too, but we were just so hyped for that shit that we were like, yes, give me every single one of these commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I'm
This
ready
one
for
seems excessive.
I think it looks good. I'm excited for it. Part of me is hoping that they do a VOD release because of the current virus situation. So that way you have a concurrent release. Because I want people to be safe when they enjoy Scream. People should die in the movie, but not at the movies. So,
Mm-hmm.
which is a segue into our next bit of news, which is Sony pushes back the release of Morbius to April. Did you guys see this?
I didn't, but that makes me worry a little bit.
Oh, why does it make you worry?
Well, obviously they had the pandemic. They've pushed this movie back like a year plus. And like Spider-Man's just starting to cool off. And he's
Well,
kind of in that universe. I don't know what we like on the coattails of Spider-Man.
the reason they're
Really big.
the reason they're postponing it, pushing it back, is due to the COVID. Uh,
Surge.
yeah, the surge. So they're pushing it
Mhm.
back so that way people will go see it in April. Hopefully things are better in April. If we're going by the history of the way these waves have been working, that's kind of how it works. I mean, um, Bond, No Time to Die was released in April and made $700 million. Whereas if it would have opened earlier, it probably wouldn't have made near that. So I think that's probably the smart
Yeah.
bet.
I hope I'm wrong, but it makes me worry about the movie.
It is hitting theaters April 1st now. It was scheduled for January 28th, and I would not be surprised if more movies push back amid the current climate. And hopefully, if people do what they should do, we'll be ready to go to the movies again very soon. Spider-Man crushed off. It's made over $1 billion already. It's a massive success, and also it's awesome. So
It was
So,
a great
guys,
movie.
yes, it was. So, guys, here's another story that ties into an ongoing storyline we've had for the last several weeks, and it's not the Munsters, Derek. It's not. It is in regards to Renfield. Remember Renfield?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so the story is Nicolas Cage told Variety that here's his exact quote. I want it to pop in a unique way from how we've seen Dracula played before. So I'm thinking to really focus on the movement of the character. I saw Malignant, and I thought that what she did with those moves, I want to look at that and we can explore with this movement and voice. So Nicolas Cage is going to play his Dracula inspired by Malignant. What are your guys'
It'll look
thoughts on
awkward as
this?
heck. By the way, I liked that movie. I thought it was good, but like,
Oh, Malignant's great. Yeah, we'll
it's about
review
late
that
running
sometime.
backwards. Yeah, we
Uh-huh.
definitely should.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he does better than I would. He's an actor, and I think he's a really good actor. So, you know what? I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. Good for him.
Yeah. Hey, you can have worse inspirations than James Wan, right? I mean,
That is true.
I know we have an
Like
expectation
Don
of Don Juan or Don the Dragon Wilson, I guess.
Hey! You leave the dragon. You leave the dragon alone.
I know we kind of have this preconceived notion of who Dracula is. I mean, it's a character that's almost 200 years old, technically. He's an old character, and so we've had countless interpretations of him. As far back as cinema, and we have the Lugosi, we have the Cushings, we had the Lugosi, we have the Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing movies, and then we have the countless other interpretations. Gary Oldman's batshit crazy performance and Bram Stoker's Dracula. So, I'm interested to see what Cage's take is on this, to be honest. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt as well. But what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, what do you think, Lydia? Derek told us.
I think there's no stopping him in whatever he decides to do, anyways.
That's true.
So he's just a guy that can do whatever he wants. So we're just gonna have to sit and wait and find out.
Except pay taxes, I think, right? You can do anything you want except pay.
He pays them. He just, has to forfeit castles in order to do so.
What,
I really don't want to sell my dinosaur head.
Yeah, I don't want to get track, but I think his manager is the one who screwed him over.
I don't know. Don't know enough about it to legally talk about it. Hashtag not legal advice.
Yeah. Don't come for me, Nick.
No, don't. We love you greatly. Except for the Wicker Man. We do not love that. We're all in agreement. That is not good.
So we're not all in agreements there.
Oh. That's a movie that exists in the world. And then finally, guys, our last bit of news. I don't know how you guys are going to react to this. I don't know if you're going to be happy about it, if you're going to be like, so let's find out. Word on the streets is, you like how I said that so that way I seem hip? Word on the street is Tobin Bell may... Thanks for interrupting me. Word on the streets is Tobin Bell may be returning to play Jigsaw in an upcoming Saw movie that is a John Kramer story. What do you guys think of this?
Is that the guy that plays Jigsaw originally?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm for that. John Kramer story. That should be interesting. I mean, he's probably a lot older than he was.
I want to see what he was doing during his teens. I think they should make a Saw movie with him in his teens.
Well, I think when he was in his teens, he wasn't crazy and killing people because he hadn't got the,
I'm kidding, man.
The old cancer.
The old motive.
The old big C.
Well, if they did one when he was a toddler, they could call it Seesaw.
Yes, the brand new Saw movie. Would you like to play a game?
Derek, that was a good one.
Seesaw. The beginning.
I'll never have another one like that ever again.
That was a good one.
that
That was top.
was good.
That was the top of the line. That was one of your best jokes. Where have those been this whole time? Saving
It
all your
takes me
shit
that
for
long to
season
come up with
2?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't say, it says we've been told that it's planned to take place prior to Saw 3, because it has to take place before Saw 3, because obviously
He died.
he gets his throat slit by a saw in Saw 3. He's gone. So,
That probably wasn't real.
oh, it was real.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've watched a Saw movie, to be honest with you. I thought the first one was so interesting. It
Mhm.
was such a good story, simple, and the twist at the end, you're just like, what's happening? And, I haven't watched like the last two of them, so I don't know what to think about that news. I
Lydia,
hope for the
Lydia and
best.
I went.
I don't know.
Lydia and I went to the movies and saw Spiral.
Spiral.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it was
liked
pretty
it.
good. Yeah, we'll
Chris Rock was in that one, right?
yep,
Yeah,
and Samuel L.
Yeah.
Jackson.
awesome.
We will we'll tackle the Saw series eventually. There's like 27 of those too. I mean, it'll have to get in line behind fucking Puppet Master.
True, true.
We still have the whole Friday the 13th saga to go through. We just cracked the first one. We've just cracked open Nightmare on Elm Street this season. We have about 11 more Halloween movies to go. We got a lot. Not going to be running out of movies anytime soon.
Oh, we have so much work to do.
So much. So much sitting down, watching the movie, then talking about it.
The
Though to
thing
be-
we always did anyways.
Yeah, now we're just recording it. Though I will say, speaking of work, watching this one kind of felt like work at times.
Oh my gosh. You're not wrong.
I'm talking, of course, about tonight's movie, Lydia's suggestion, Casey Bascom's 2003 masterpiece, as she put it last week, Alone in the Dark. Or Afraid of the Dark. Fear of the Dark. God, what's the name of this movie? Fear of the Dark. It has... There's so many movies that are so similarly named to this, isn't there?
Yes. Yes, there
Fear of the Dark. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are You Afraid of the Dark episode?
It kind of feels like an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode, or like a Goosebumps episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll definitely dig into all that. So let's talk about our experiences with this movie like we always do. Let's start with you, Lydia, because I'm sure you have the most experience with this movie.
Okay, so when I was young, me and my stepbrother, like every other weekend, my stepbrother would come over and we would get to go to the movie store and pick out a movie. And we picked out this movie. It was one of those things like, oh, let's get a scary movie. Oh, the anxiety and like the fun of like, yes, we just picked like this scary cover. Okay, like the cover is genuinely freaky. And so we get it home and we're like watching it and we immediately are just having a blast watching this, and it's kind of scary, like like the kind of scary that we're used to in a Goosebumps movie, but kind of like upped a little bit. So we were like, we had such a good time watching it, and I think we even went back and rented it a second time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we would reference it. Like that's how much I was into this movie. Like we would reference this like ghost character like playing in our home. Like we would be like, oh, the darkness thing.
Oh, look, there's the cowboy.
Yes, we would literally say the cowboy. Like the cowboy was a ghost in our house, like a real
You don't
thing.
know
So
what cowboy
I'm
is.
really I'm really anxious because
We'll get that next week.
because of how this movie, like how it was like a part of my childhood, and I was anxious to hear what you guys think about it.
We have some thoughts. This is a movie that we watched for sure.
Yes. And I'm just gonna say, I'm considering this my birthday week, so this can just be my birthday movie for me to
This is your birthday
experience
movie?
here. Yes. And I had a blast watching it last night.
Derek, what are your experiences with this movie? And you need to pick a birthday movie when it's your birthday as well.
Okay. I can do that. So I think I've seen this movie one other time. I think it was with you. We rented this movie and watched it. Now, that being said, when I rewatched it this week, I remembered nothing about the movie except for the open. I remembered the opening.
I remembered the opening too, yeah, and the cover. Those are the two things I remembered.
But yes, I mean that's really the extent that I have experience in this movie. I can say, Lydia. So this was in 2003. How old were you in 2003?
I think it was 9, maybe.
Oh my God!
Oh God!
So old.
Yeah, I was about to start my senior year of high school.
Graduated plus one for my school, but
Yeah.
But here's the thing about this movie, because it is kind of in that vein of Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps. It's a really good movie for a preteen or like younger teen to watch. So I definitely see where you kind of like latched onto this, because it's a step up. Depends on how sheltered you were, honestly. Like Jane and I have went into great detail about how like wide open our viewing options were.
Yeah, if I would have
But,
watched
like-
this at your age, I'd have been like, "This is crap. Where's the blood?"
Yeah.
But somebody
Like
who
my
doesn't-
parents,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, my parents wouldn't even let us rent Gremlins because they thought it would scare us. So
Yeah.
this was like a win for us,
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
what I'm talking about.
Definitely.
So I could definitely see where
I,
this was like that step up. So
Mhm.
Yes.
I got you. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, this is like Derek said, I watched this one other time. Derek and I, when we were younger men, out of high school, somewhere around there, through our college years, we would go to the video store and we would rent movies that we thought looked bad. We'd also rent good ones, of course, but we'd want just bottom of the barrel movies to watch them. It gives them a view, gives them a rent, and then we rank them. Like that one wasn't as bad as this one. That was a thing we used to do. We had some really, really stinkers. This one wasn't on that level because we barely remembered it. Now there's like some, like if I asked Derek about Guardians of the Realm, he remembers that because it was terrible. Or Beyond the Walls of Sleep, he remembers that.
So real quick, that movie Beyond the Walls of Sleep was it got a posted note like on its DVD cover. It was that bad.
We did put a post-it note. Don't rent this.
It made we fall asleep with their head laying on was it a DVD player?
A VCR. Jimmy fell asleep with his head on the VCR. He was using it as a pillow for some reason.
Yeah, it was that bad.
Terrible.
But anyway,
But we used to do this regularly, and so that's how we first watched this. That's the only time I watched this. But I remember the cover specifically. Like I remember seeing it and like, oh, this looks interesting. So a little side tangent before we continue, since we were talking about our days of renting bad horror movies. This one night, I'm out at my mom's, and Derek calls me. We're gonna hang out, and Derek calls me and says, "Hey, do you want me to pick up?
Don't do it.
Do you want me to pick up a movie?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, man." So he's like, "I'm gonna grab the crappiest one I can find." So he comes to the house and he says, I opened the door and let him in, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I found this one." And I was like, "Oh, what is it?" He said, "Well, it's called Don't Be Scabbed." I said, Don't be scabbed. What the fuck kind of movie is this? Like about a guy that's peeling off scabs? And then I looked at it and it said, "Don't be scared." It just had the R with a knife. So it's like a bee and an eye. And I was like, man, I think this is called "Don't Be Scared."
Don't be scabbed.
I was like, I think that'd be scaped anyway.
So you brought it up. I got to say a little bit about this movie because it's a gem. But first off, I think we watched this movie like 4 or 5 times. Just throwing it out.
It's so short.
Yeah, it's like 42 minutes long, and it was written, starring, and directed by Master P.
Is that somebody terrible. That the audience will know, or is that
Master P was a rapper in the 90s and early 2000s, folks? If you don't remember Master P, yeah, he was a rapper. So he wrote, directed, and started this 40-minute fucking weird ass terrible movie. But that's one of my favorite memories of the video store watching was Derek coming over with "Don't Be Scabbed." So
that's awesome.
Exactly where you were going with that.
That's the perfect story to get us into this movie because that's the feeling that you should go in with this. Is that kind of fun?
This movie was better. Don't Be Scabbed.
We'll get into the ratings, but this movie's better than some of the movies we watch, in my opinion. So the movie opens. The movie opens with this. Before we start, I've got to just point this out up front because I'm going to reference it multiple times. There are some fucking stupid, terrible shots in this movie. The opening shot is the first one. This terrible slow-mo is just too much for me. He uses way too much slow-mo, way too much speed ramps, and just vertigo shots. It's just it's something. It's something to behold. But so we get the opening, which what do you guys think of the opening like theme song and the spooky music and the smoke?
It was literally like so much like Goosebumps to me.
It felt exactly like Goosebumps. Yeah. I was just expecting
which is
it
so
to go
strange.
Yeah. I was expecting to go doot 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 doot.
Yeah,
and you see
like
a
the synth
dog with eyes glowing.
So Jamie and I didn't talk about this movie in depth, but like we briefly touched on it in a conversation we had this weekend. That was the first thing I said to him. I was like, man, that movie felt like an episode. It could have been an episode of Goosebumps.
And I think I'll get into that here on a critique I have of it later when we get into the movie. But so yeah, the opening is just like purely like TV schmaltz, I feel like. And then so we get this baseball crashes through a basement window. Which, by the way, whoever hit that ball was terrible. How do you hit it through a basement window? Hitting some terrible grounders or something. But anyway, hits it through a basement window. They argue about going to get it. The one kid goes down to get it. And he walks down and he's, afraid of the dark. He goes and he hears something. They shut the door, lock him in there, and he's like, "No, don't do it." And then we see something manifest in the darkness. And then it kind of goes to the kid and we cut. What do you think of the opening of this movie? Start with you, Lydia.
I think it's super memorable. It's weird how much I remembered from this movie, though. Like, that's how it's such a strange thing for me to talk about because it's like I literally haven't talked about it in almost 20 years. So, but I remember this opening shot and the next shot after this, like, pretty vividly. So it must have been okay.
What do you think, Derek?
So So it definitely, I could put myself in the position of this kid, right, being locked in this basement. Right, those aren't your friends, just so you know.
No.
Creep. But anyway, yeah. I mean, you can kind of feel a lot of empathy for this kid. Now, that being said, and this is a theme throughout the movie, the, the special effects, like the actual bad people, man, relied way too much on the digital special effects instead of practical, and showed in here and in the rest of the movie. But it was a memorable opening. That was the thing I remembered about this movie. So
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't hate the opening either. I think it's fine. It's not. I think as a little kid, and that's the hard part, is this was clearly made for a more of a family audience, I feel like, or like a young teen audience. Because there's no way they made this thinking they're going to scare grown people at all. So it's decently atmospheric, besides a couple of really distracting shots, and that's the problem with the trick shots that happen, is they're just distracting, and they take away from the scene as opposed to add to them. So I mean, I think it would have been more powerful to just, once that, like, I hate that it does that to the ball. That's not. It's just kind of pointless. I think it was more powerful. It'd be more powerful to just track on the ball like it started to do, and that it ends that way. You didn't need that in between shit. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, I like the opening as far as the content of it, the setting of it. There's just some execution problems that are just inherent throughout the whole movie. But yeah, I liked it. Think it's fun. What's the next shot that you love, Lydia? Lead us into it.
Well, so I really like it shows like our main character, what is his name?
Ryan.
I almost called him Jesse because he's played by Jesse James, the actor.
Yes.
You might know from a few other movies.
Kevin Zegers is also in this movie from Adam Green's Frozen.
Yes. And he's in a few other horror movies
tons
as
of
well.
movies. Yeah, tons of movies.
But so our main character comes home and he comes into the door of his house, which is a pretty nice house, and starts going room to room, flipping on all of the lights, which I somehow related to. I was like, I don't want to be in a room with the dark. Like, I definitely had a fear of the dark when I was a kid. So I related.
It's funny, when I was real young, I used to, when I would leave a room and turn off the light, I would run out of the room.
Yes.
Like, you didn't want it to get you, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
and that's what
on your back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what is it about that, like, primal fear that, like, most humans I think have, of just like,
it's evolution.
I don't know what's behind me right now.
Yeah, it's evolution. It's it's in our genetic code, because
genetic memory.
We didn't have protection in the dark. We were easy prey in the dark. So we have a primal fear of the dark because you can't see
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where other things can see perfectly well.
Yeah, like especially like wolves or something, they can.
And tigers.
Which we have to worry about here in the great state of Indiana. But
Panthers, mountain lions.
So real quick, again, it's just like came to me. So when he's like riding a skateboard, the song that is playing, I couldn't help but like.
Oh yes.
What did it make you think of?
The song choices in there just make me think of like the early 2000s. I just feel.
This song specifically, I don't know why, it made me think Clerks 2.
Oh, yeah. That shot of him skateboarding, and he's we're on his foot and we pull up, that reminded me you're not gonna like it, Lydia, but it's true. It reminded me of a shot that we would see in freaking the other one. What's the other one? I'm drawing a blank on it right now.
Yeah.
The other one that we hate. Oh, Creek Children of the Night. It
Yes.
felt like a shot
Oh,
from Children of the
you hate
Night.
that movie?
No, it's okay. So that's why, like, that is the twin to this movie right now, is because like Derek suggested Children of the Night, and I was like, I have one that is like that probably. So
Yeah, and
I kept comparing this to that too.
yeah, that shot felt like a TV show shot, like because Children of the Night feels like a TV movie for some reason, and so does this one at points. But
Real
yeah,
quick, I got something really tragic to tell you guys.
Oh no. You're
My
just gonna
copy of
devastate
Children
us?
of the Night,
mm-hmm.
it got burned up.
Oh no, really?
I would
He's
consider
so
that
devastated. I was so scared.
I'd consider that a blessing in disguise. maybe just get the cash out on that one.
Well, no, assuming I get my
It's a rare copy.
hard drive back, I had backed it up, but yeah, my copy got burned up in the fire.
Yeah, you
Anyway.
have it backed up on the hard drive so we could watch it.
Wow.
And,
Dang, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that is
but
devastating.
that was dramatic, wasn't it? It was.
I'm pretty
had to go
sure-
on.
That was. I was so scared for a second.
I'm pretty sure that your copy of that was a bootleg copy anyway.
You know, yeah, I paid, but I'm 100% sure that you're right. They definitely printed off like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of the cover.
It looked like it was fucking Xerox. They popped down to Kinko's and was like, oh, gotta make a new cover. You gotta sell this movie to this sucker.
Hey, we had to try to search, guys. Let's make another copy.
Oh my gosh.
So back to this film. Yeah, so he goes through and he's flipping on all the lights, like you said, and that is a memory that I had as a kid.
This song, we have to describe the song because we briefly mentioned it, but the song that plays, so that's what happens is like he's like skateboarding home and then he walks in the door, right? So when he's skateboarding home from school,
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
This song starts playing that is a surf rock song with yodeling as the singing in it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And for some reason, it is extremely catchy. But it's
It
the
is.
weirdest combination. And I just got to shout out to Jake, who has not stopped yodeling in our house since then.
Yeah, that sounds like a problem.
He's really into it. I think it's going to be a new career path for him. So.
Oh, good. I'm glad he finally found something to latch on to. Yodeling.
Yes.
So when Ryan is going through his house, we're introduced to his family members. We're introduced to his mom, who is downstairs like welding. She's welding, and there's like this shot where you think something's going on in there, like she's like a mad scientist or something. And she flips it up, and she's the mom, and she's like, "Honey, is that you? Is that you, Ryan?" And he's
Yes.
and the dialogue here makes me laugh because it is very natural. He's like, "No, it's a robber. Don't worry about it." And just a little banter between the two. And then she asks him to come down, and this is where we start to get parts of the backstory. He has a legit phobia of the dark, like an actual fear of the dark. He can't go down until she turns on the lights. He's petrified of it. And the kid, Jesse James, is a pretty good little actor in this movie. I think his performance in this movie is actually really good.
Yes.
Agreed. He makes me feel a lot of empathy towards him. There's some writing that's
Real
not
quick.
great that he had. Go ahead.
I had to look it up because I was like, man, this kid looks so familiar. First, I thought it was a kid from The Sandlot. He's
No.
definitely not.
Not
But
Smalls.
he, you know who I was talking about. But
Yeah,
I
Smalls
remember,
was like 10
man,
years older than this kid.
Yeah, he looks so familiar. So one of my favorite movies is The Butterfly Effect. And he is actually
Yes.
in The Butterfly Effect, and he's a mean little kid in that movie. But
Yes.
just a little bit of tidbit of information.
You and your love of the butterfly effect. I remember you talking about that forever. We'll get to
It's a
that
good
one eventually, probably.
philosophical.
What
Yeah,
a
he-
philosophical film. I was like, you think so? You know, I like to get my philosophy via Ashton Kutcher as well. So,
I
we're
like
introduced to-
Ashton Kutcher. Okay, he does a lot of good work.
He does. He's fine.
Yeah.
I like him too. Kelso's great. But again, I don't. We'll talk about the butterfly effect eventually. We'll talk about that one eventually.
It
I was
a
watching
great
The Butterfly.
Steve Jobs. I'm kidding.
No, he was a terrible Steve Jobs. Fassbender all the way. on that one.
Visually, he definitely looked the part, but anyway.
Yeah, Fassbender all the way on that one. Didn't I get you that movie?
Mm-hmm.
I thought so.
You sure did.
Derek
I love
has
you
an
for it.
undying love of Steve Jobs. He would give Steve all the jobs, if you know what I'm saying.
Like,
Oh my goodness!
None of this is going to air.
Dang.
None of this. So,
Should we just
you're
stop
so
now?
full of it. All of it's gonna go. You know it. Be in the editing, be like, we're gonna keep that.
oh yeah, especially since I told you don't be Scab story.
If we
Oh
go
my
off
God.
on too many more tangents, we're gonna have to cut some stuff out.
I know it's getting long, but so we're introduced to the father as well. The dad comes in and he asks for him, and it's weird. He says he needs his help. He goes into the room, and he doesn't ask him for help in anything. He's like, "I need your help in here." Then he's just like walking around in his boxers, looking at different ties, and he has this tie that is awful. It's
That's
green
not a product of the
and
time.
yellow at the same time.
Oh yeah, split. He's wearing. Is
Yeah.
he wearing a yellow shirt?
Yeah, and he's like, it's split, and he's like, and I was like, I would never, ever wear that. What is that?
Yeah, yeah. Like the skinny part is yellow and the
Yeah.
rest of the tie is green.
Yeah. So he, that's where we get a little bit more backstory. He says, "Hey, you know, the light in the living room's about to go out. Can you replace that?" And he's like, "I'll replace it later." And we find out exactly how afraid Ryan is of the dark. And he kind of has a little talk with him. I guess the dad's a prosecutor. He says something about prosecuting criminals. And then then Ryan mentions he hears somebody in his brother Dale's room, and he's like, "Well, I figured that you could, I could do. Can I get a puppy? Because if I could get I should be able to get a puppy since you're allowing girls in Dale's room." And we find out that this girl that's in his room is this big crush that he's had for a while.
Mhm.
And we go in there and we meet Dale and
Hey,
what's her name? Do you
real
guys?
quick. The conversation that the dad has with this young kid is so insensitive. Like, there's definitely a tactful way to approach that situation, but he definitely fails hardcore.
Well, yeah, he kind of does say,
Well,
"Aren't you a little too
I
afraid?
agree.
Or, aren't you a little too old to be
Yeah.
afraid of the dark?" Kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and everybody seems to do this to him constantly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, he is 12, and they act like he's way younger than that. The movie does, like the situations they put him in. Like they have the girl go and tuck him into bed, and I was like, I didn't have any babysitters tuck me into bed when I was 12,
You
though
know,
I wish some of them would have, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
I
Anyway,
can't even.
I can't even. Um, but no, you're right. I do feel like it's an insensitive kind of approach to it. But we meet Dale, and do you guys remember the girl's name?
Heather.
Heather. Okay. So Dale and Heather,
Which
and
Dale and Heather are not age appropriate names for these characters at all.
Dale sounds like he should be at his trailer park with his wife
Yep.
Heather.
You're right. Something like
or Cindy,
Like they should
or
be like
Jasmine,
40.
or
They should be 40, right?
Crystal.
yeah, or like in
Not-
the nursing
I'm
home,
not saying
maybe.
anything bad about any of those names.
No, if you're a Dale and you listen, thank you for listening, Dale. Sorry about your name, bro.
And you have a mullet, please
I
comment
actually know
in
a
the,
Dale.
comment
Do you?
box. Does he have a mullet?
No, he's a super sweet guy. I worked with him for a while, and I really liked his name. Like it, I after knowing him, I was like, I like the name Dale a lot, and I think it's like it means something else too, like a small stream or something like that, right?
Well, I really, when I think of it, I think of chipmunks that save people's lives.
I think of Tucker and Dale versus Evil, but
That's a good one too.
Ooh, That's a
It's a
good
great one. We'll get to that one. It's a great one. It's a great one.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Really good one. Really good one. So their conversation here. What do you guys think of this little scene? With their flirtation scene.
I think it's cute. I think a lot of these
Yeah.
scenes are really cute, but like some of the lines are like a little cheesy delivery, but we realize that kid is the kid from Air Bud. And we were like, now I can't like not just hear him like in Air Bud. You know what I mean? Like it was like all of his lines came across cheesy, like no matter what.
There's some little later in the movie that I feel like the delivery is a little cheesy when he's talking about, like I'm your brother and stuff like that. You can
Yeah.
he almost goes full Wahlberg. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm your brother. What? No.
Yeah, and he always says that too, like to everything.
Yeah, I'm your brother. Don't worry about it. So when they're having their conversation, there's this like freaking super 2000s song that plays,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like total early 2000s, and it cracked me up. I wrote a note about it, and I was like, what a 2003 music choice. So, Ryan comes in, interrupts them, and they're about to kiss as she's holding a cord. Too bad she wasn't holding the D. That's a missed opportunity. I would have said, this is a D, chord when he's teaching her the guitar. It would have been perfect.
oh my
You dropped the
gosh.
ball, Bascom.
Would that have been a E sharp?
Yeah, it could be. So, she's not worried about it. She thinks that Ryan is sweet and cute, and she writes her phone number for Ryan and gives it to him, and says, And then there's a cute little scene. I really like when she's like, "Nice tie," and she leaves, and they're like, all like, "Oh," and then Ryan holds up the paper, and he's like, starts running backwards, and Dale starts chasing him. Really cute. It's like total brother stuff. It took
Yeah.
me back. Except ours would have ended with probably a fight or, Freddy being thrown around. So then there's this really weird scene where he goes in and he's complaining to his parents about what's wrong with, Ryan needs to just get over it kind of thing. It's not a weird scene. It's the dialogue is interesting in it. It's when basically the point of it is, isn't he too old? You guys need to. I know you guys are going on your you going on this business thing. I'm watching him. He's going to be fine. He's a little too old to be acting like this. He needs to just get over it. I was babysitting other kids when I was 12. He needs to get over this. And then we find out that the mom is super protective during this scene. She's super protective. The dad's kind of starting to side with the brother, and the brother's kind of like over it. And meanwhile, poor Ryan's sitting outside, and he hears all of it, and he starts to cry. What do you guys think of this little scene?
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like when you really do have a problem. And I really do relate to that too, because I don't know if I've talked about it before on here, but I have PTSD. And I was in a tornado several years ago and constantly get told stuff like that when I'm having a hard time with like the weather or anything. And it's like people just shoot me down about it, and I totally feel that, where he's just like feels defeated, like nobody will understand, you know.
Yeah, he mentions it later in the movie that I just want somebody to believe me. I wish somebody would believe me. And it's got to be a hard situation to have yourself in, where you feel this one way and nobody believes you. You know, you see these things and nobody believes that you see them. And so it's a cool little character beat for him to hear it. It's a little on the nose and maybe a little too melodramatic, but it gets the point across. You feel what this kid, this little boy, I guess, adolescent, is going through. What do you think, Derek?
Probably one of the more, what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't know. It's definitely well done, and it kind of is on the nose. But yeah, just the way that it's just brushed aside, because, you know, to you guys' point, he clearly has a problem with it. It's something that does affect him, and I think him is fighting medication. She doesn't want to put him on medication, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, there's actually a line here where she says, "I will not, no, you know, my son will not take medication." And I wrote in my notes, "Do you think she would be anti-vax?"
Yeah, she says, my son will not be medicated ever. Like, in a way that's like, you're not going to drug my son so that he'll stop, you know, like, stop being who he is. Like, he'll probably work his own way through this, and that's just, if that's how he is, then we'll accept it.
Yeah, I get that's good, but some people need medication, and some people
they totally do. Yeah.
Should be medicated. And so for that line, I was like, well, if the doctor suggested it, you know.
The best medication, I think, in this scenario would just be the power of listening and trying to understand him, and, you know, try to get to the cause of it. Because, you know, later on, not to jump the gun, you know, he had an incident in his past that was the catalyst for this. Right. So it would have gone a long way if they just listened instead of.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it would have. And that leads to the next scene where he's standing in the mirror and he's looking at like his shoulder. He's been attacked by these creatures recently. And Dale comes in and sees him and sees the scratches, and he's like, oh, you know, covers it up, and he's like, what the heck happened to you, dude? He's like, no, I fell on my skateboard. And then, so Dale thinks that he's being bullied at school. And he's like, I can help you with that. You know, I went through that too. Then it gets like really saccharine. He's like, I'm your brother. You can talk to me.
So, you can tell me anything.
Tell me anything you want. I don't care. That's fine. Say hi to your mom for me. So, stupid. So stupid. It's going to be the thing the rest of the episode. But, so they go to leave. The parents go to leave. And guys, he's playing Wave Race on the GameCube, the Wave Race sequel. And I saw it and I was like, Wave Race! I was like, yeah, you play Wave Race. So he's playing Wave Race. He had the mom doesn't want to leave because she fears for her sons because of his condition. The dad wants to go. But he's also worried about his son, so he's kind of talking down about him, like right to his face, essentially. And he's like, finally says, "Dad, I can hear you." And he's like, "Okay, well, here's the things for the generator." Tells us all the stuff that we're gonna need for later in the movie, where the generator is located and all this stuff. So they leave, and they have like this middle part of this movie, guys. This middle part of this movie is a bunch of literally the same scene over and over again. Like, they end up in the kitchen about 4 times. Something will happen, they sit in the kitchen and talk. Something happens, they sit in the kitchen and talk. Something happens, they sit in the kitchen and talk. And this is where I'm going to get into... Well, I won't get into the critique just yet. But when he sits down, he pops out a cigarette, which cracks... Derek loved this scene. Derek has an absolute hatred of smoking, so it's perfect. So he pops out a cigarette, and then he's asks him if he wants to get ice cream. So he goes to get ice cream, and then the next thing you know, Ryan's watching The Evil Dead. It's just there.
Yeah, he's flipping. He's trying to change the channel, I think.
Yeah.
And
The first time,
want to watch Evil Dead.
Yeah, well, the first time we don't see that he's watching something else. First time we just hear the dialogue for Evil Dead. You know, when she's like, I heard you in the cellar. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, that's Evil Dead. Which is sad that I just recognized it immediately. I have owned that movie 400 times. And then, so then he's trying to watch cartoons. He's turning it to like a cartoon. And we watch the TV just switch to Evil Dead. Then he turns it back to cartoons and it just switches to Evil Dead. Then it just starts switching. And might I say, it is the worst version of Evil Dead because it is all out of order. There's just like shit going on that's like from the beginning of the movie, the end of the movie. I was like, oh, man.
I could not stop thinking about you guys when I saw that was going on. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They're just going to play these shots of Evil Dead out of order.
Yeah, they were so out of order. So there's a rule, guys. It's an unwritten rule in films. Don't put scenes of a movie. Don't put scenes of a better movie in your movie. Because then the audience is going to say, oh, God, I wish I was watching Evil Dead. It happens. It happens a lot with Night of the Living Dead because it's in public domain. So you can put that movie in your movie for free. Mm-hmm. And so they have a character watching Evil Dead as an homage. But what happens almost every time is they'll go, man, I really wish I was watching Night of the Living Dead because it's such a great movie. So, yeah, I won't be putting clips of Halloween probably in any of my films. Maybe bits of somebody watching it in the background or something, but I don't want to fucking have to go up against that juggernaut. No, thanks.
So, there's a scene that you and I shot in the project that we're working on. This is the second iteration of this project. And the first one, we had a great following scene of the actor where we go right by the Crystal Lake hat that you had hanging up. It was just a beautiful homage to it that is not in the newest version of this, and that makes me so sad.
Yeah, I wish we would have got that shot too. We had actor difficulties, but yeah, that was that was a great little just tip of the cap to it. It won't be in there, but there's some other subtle hints of other stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's subtle ways to do it. It's just, so you don't want to flat out show the movie.
You'll see it. You'll see it when we're done. I've been working really hard on it these last several weeks. So, then after this point, they kind of split up, right? I mean, he goes upstairs and he's like playing his guitar, and he's
Terribly.
like terribly playing it. I literally put terrible guitar playing.
We're like, okay, I see why he didn't want to play her a song now.
Yeah, yeah. He has his headphones on. And he's just like not even like hitting any chord. He's just like touching like the G string, just touching it, and I'm like, the fuck kind of what song is that?
You
So
wish he
he's
was
playing the
strumming a G string.
he's playing the guitar, and then
Terrible.
Ryan comes up and says, "Hey, something's wrong with the TV." And he comes down and he's like, "There's nothing wrong with the TV." Blah blah. And then it does it to him, and he says, he's like, "Hey, quit messing with the remote." I'm not. So this is his first incident of haunting, little bit of haunting. Might I say, before we continue, that the backstory of these creatures is muddy at best. Like, we really get no explanation for them whatsoever.
It's not even muddy. It's like there they are.
Non-existent?
There's no explanation.
Yeah.
There's no solution.
There was an
There's
explanation.
no beginning, no end.
Yeah,
There was.
they're just kind of there.
Well, I mean, this is from the perspective of this 12-year-old, but like from his perspective, is they, for all intents and purposes, they're interdimensional creatures that live in the dark. Is the way
Okay.
what I picked up from the movie.
Mhm. Yeah, that's kind
that
of
in
it.
there?
But it,
Am I thinking of?
yeah, yeah, but it doesn't. It's still like it's not really explained. Like, why don't I go into the dark and then get killed? Why does anybody? Why don't
Yeah.
everybody get killed when the lights are off?
Yeah.
Actually,
Why does
the
nobody else
girl,
know?
Heather.
She mentioned something
Able-
about if you're afraid of them, they can get you. But
Yeah, fear.
Her brother was the one that got attacked, right? I'm assuming
Yep,
at the beginning
that's
that
what
was
I
her
got.
yes,
brother.
yeah, by
So-
dogs, by dogs. Yeah,
Oh, that's right. She said by dogs,
He
didn't
got
she?
attacked by dogs, but
She got
but
her
brother
and
had
her
a heart
brother got attacked by dogs.
oh
But
yeah,
then that
but they
was her brother
survived.
that got killed. Yeah.
He of a heart attack is how her brother died at
Right.
like 10 or what.
Right, yeah. Because he was so scared in
Lydia,
the
I
basement when he got
Yeah,
attacked by those
yeah.
things.
Yeah. But they didn't eat him, but they're supposed to eat people. I don't know. The creatures are just there's something. We'll get to those when we get to the final grade of this. But there's a great joke in here when he's talking about the TV not working, and he says he's like why are you watching all this horror no wonder you're scared. You're watching horror movies. He's like, I'm not watching it. He's like, oh yeah, that's the same excuse I used for mom and dad when they caught me watching scrambled porn. And I was like, oh, that brings back the memories. Scrambled porn.
It's
like,
so
wait,
true.
I think that's a breast.
Oh, wait, for real. My grandpa and I used to watch the wrestling pay-per-views all the time. Right?
Scrambled?
We would rent them
Yeah.
because there were only, back in the day, there were only 4 of them.
Mhm.
I remember this one time, we rented it, and then after the pay-per-view cut off, it like went an extra like 20 minutes. And it was like a Shannon Tweed movie that came on. But it wasn't scrambled, like it was legit. And like sitting there, it was a little like I was freaking out. Anyway,
No, that's funny. I used to watch pay-per-views, wrestling pay-per-views scrambled. Because if you didn't have to buy them, you could just watch them and listen to them.
oh yeah, you can listen to the
watch.
commentary.
Yeah, yeah, and listen and watch it a little bit. But so yeah, the lights go out. Basically, is the next big thing that happens. The lights go out, and
Because of the storm.
because of the storm, it's storming really bad, and the lights go out in the house, and he immediately freaks out, and he goes into his room and he puts on his fucking little monster outfit, is what I call it. It's the little
Yeah,
monster.
that's what it made me think of.
Yep, the little monsters. He's like just has like lights all over it. There's like a little light hat. So he puts on the
Glow
little monsters,
sticks.
glow sticks. Yep, ready to go. Actually, he kind of looks like a Shocker from Running Man as well, a little bit like that. Um, so he has on this outfit,
Funny.
and then they he at one point Dale pulls out a flashlight and says, "Dad spent $500 on this flashlight," and I was like, "Well, your dad's an idiot." Because that looks like a run-of-the-mill regular flashlight.
I thought the exact same thing.
I think he was exaggerating to make the kid feel better.
I hope so.
I
Yeah.
hope. I hope that's what it was. That's the only thing I could come up. I was like, there's no way that flashlight costs that much. No way.
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying about the middle part of this movie. It's hard for me to put it into order in what happens because it's just a lot of the same stuff happening,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They hear a
you're right.
noise.
It's like, yeah.
They hear a noise, they go investigate it, they maybe see something move in the dark, and then they go back to the kitchen.
Yeah.
They talk.
The bigger brother gets locked in the attic at one point
That's a little later.
while
yeah,
he's
first,
putting on the light suit. Like,
yeah. First, they see the cowboy man in the closet. The brother sees the cowboy because they're hearing banging.
yes.
So he
I thought
opens the
that was a good
closet
scare.
and he sees the cowboy man.
It kind of
It
like
was really-
flashes in the lightning, right? And it like comes
Now
at
the-
you a little bit. So that was a good scare, I thought.
It was. The special effect was like terrible, but you're right. The timing of it and the placement of it was very good.
So it would have been a good scare, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this is kind of what happens for the middle part of this movie, is these kind of things, and you think that basically you feel like the third act is when they're in the attic, almost, because everything's ramping up, right? So when the whole attic situation happens, he's upstairs. Why does he even go in the attic? Because there's lights up there. That's why they go in the attic.
Yeah.
And throughout this whole time, they keep hearing banging noises. They search, and there's something spooky. They go up to the attic. He goes up to the attic. Ryan stays downstairs with his little light suit on, and that's when he puts it on. That's when he gets ready to go. Starts turning on some lights around his room, and he's sitting down by the wall, and they rip off Wes and have like little faces coming out of the wall.
Mhm.
Yeah, they did.
And it's not
Noticed
near as
that.
good as the one we watched last week. The CG effects always kill those. The nothing beats that hole, little
Latex
spandex. Yeah, spandex
Yeah.
walls where it's at. So yeah, they he sees little faces, and then he's in the attic and he gets locked in there. The door just kind of slams shut on him. And then I guess we see the manifestations behind him, the little CG and shit. What do you guys think of this little bit, the whole attic wall shit?
Not great.
It's not the best.
Not the best. It would be scary to be up there, but yeah, like the CG kind of takes you out of it. But as a kid watching it in, the 2000s, I feel like I probably didn't realize it was CG.
Yeah, probably not. Not at 9. No.
And it does not occur to kids, like, I don't think at all that stuff was possible. Like, it all just seems like, very realistic, even when it's clearly not as an adult.
Yeah, so I think back to there's some movies that have questionable special effects that I remember when I was a kid that looked amazing. I mean, a lot of them are good because I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, so there's a lot of real practical effects. And then the big CG movies were good, like Twister, obviously. Or I remember one of the most transformative viewing experiences when I went and saw Jurassic Park in the theater. I just thought
And
dinosaurs were real.
those both came out right around the time when I was born. So
Yeah.
my movie history view
Yeah.
is like very like up and down, where you can watch something from the 90s that's terrible and something from the 90s that's
Amazing.
spot on perfect realistic CG.
Jurassic Park still to this day is like, finger kiss masterpiece.
Yes, it
But
holds up.
when I remember being in the theaters, well, I know we're on a tangent, but I remember being in the theaters and when Alan Grant the first time we see a dinosaur and we see the Brontosaurus, I remember just being like, Dad, they found real dinosaurs. Like, that's the only explanation I had. Like, they did it. They actually cloned him. I felt like Jeff Goldblum. You son of a bitch. You did it.
I cannot tell you how scared I was of dinosaurs.
Dude, I thought they were just the best. And I loved the T-Rex so much. I just was like, he's the coolest to me. I always rooted for the villains. I'm weird. But back to this one. Yeah, so Derek, what do you think of this whole bit?
Yeah, it was, the CG does take you out of the suspense of the movie. But they're setting up this transition, and they do it through the entire movie, where it goes from the young kid to the brother eventually, because slowly as it progresses, the older brother gets more and more and more sucked into this fear of the dark. And so the attic scene kind of pushes us towards that, and then I thought of Little Monsters as well. Saw a little kid down in the
so he
hallway.
So he comes down and he sees him. Like, is this where he gets attacked, or is that a little later? That's a little later.
It is a little later, yeah.
It's like right after. Yeah, it's like right after this.
Yeah, so like,
by the way, I totally thought that he killed the cowboy guy.
So yeah, we'll get to that in a second too. So when we actually first see the monsters, right? So they go back to the kitchen and regroup, and then
eat ice cream.
Then they go out and search for something else. This is where he sees the monster guys coming after him, and they appear. There's like a group of them. I called them the fucking Monster Gang. The Monster Gang show up and they're playing this fucking theme song, dude. This rock song, and it fucking killed me.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Are you sure they weren't the Monster Squad?
They weren't the Monster Squad. Nobody's the Monster Squad. But
the 2000s rock music that plays is so like that's what made me love this movie, was that scene as a kid. I was like, yes, they are so
look
cool.
How cool it is. Yeah, it's so funny. It's just so tone deaf and so hilarious.
And it's just one scene. Yes.
And you like see the fucking cowboy guy
yes, so
doing his
funny.
little and so then they do their bit, and then he it makes it look like it's the lights turn on, and then he appears in front of him and he's just like and he's like choking him, and
it's dark again, and he's like choking him and strangling him,
and then I guess he just runs away when the brother comes, because he just disappears, and then he wakes up and the brother's there. Dale is, and he's like,
which is confusing.
Yeah, it's all very confusing.
It's a confusing scene.
There's a lot of those in this, and then he's like,
have we passed the
it didn't follow.
Scene where Heather is talking to?
We haven't even got to Heather's not even here yet. She did call. Yeah. She called.
That's coming up. Yeah.
She already called. She called earlier, and he's like, "Yeah, the power's out here. Is the power out there?" And they have like a little conversation, and then
because she's like making donuts at her job or something.
Yeah, so she's doing that, and while she's doing that, Ryan is walking around, and he gets cut on the finger by this little statue. It has like first of all, why do those parents have this fucking knife statue?
Oh my gosh. Yes. No. Okay. So the mom
Yeah.
welds
right?
these
Yeah.
art pieces that are giant metal statues with holes and like weird little pieces, and they're terrifying.
Yeah.
Like most of them are like figures of
And this one has like
humans.
a blade.
That
It's
one
like a
was
little
like
one.
looked like a little metal sculpture of Predator
Yeah, with a blade. He's
with a
holding a
spear.
blade. Yeah.
Like
Holding like
he's
yeah,
even has
spear.
like the mouthpieces, like Predator
Yeah.
mouthpieces. You know?
So he gets his finger cut, and then that's one of the scenes in the kitchen. He's repairing his fingers, and she hears them yelling. So then they have another scare, and they end up. He's like, "Oh, I'll make you feel better." So they end up in his bed, Ryan's bed, with the baseball bat as a tent, and they're like camping under the blankets. And he's like, "Hey, tuck your feet in." He's like, "Why?" Because they'll grab your feet. They'll attack you and grab
They
your
can't
feet
they can't get you if they're under the if you're under the
if you're under
covers.
the covers. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay." So he does it, and then the scare that everybody saw coming. Like, I mean, even at 9, you had to have seen this coming. Heather shows up,
Yeah.
and
And she's
is
whispering like a creepy monster.
yeah. Why would she be doing that? Why wouldn't she be like, "Guys, hello, hello"?
I don't think she was actually doing that, but that's like you hear that and they're like
Yeah.
the suspense is building and they're like both terrified. Or like the big brother is even like super scared right at this moment. He's like, we're gonna get killed by these things
Yeah.
that he
And
doesn't
then
even believe in.
they pull him up, and then it's the it's Heather.
And he almost murders her with the baseball bat.
With the baseball bat. Yeah. What do you guys think of that scene? This scene of the tent.
I think it's cute when they're in the tent and they're just both scared together. But I also, at that moment, I kind of felt like the younger brother suddenly got a little too brave, and it seemed like he was pranking his older brother.
That would have been actually a great ending to this movie if he was just
yes, I was like,
Psych!
what if this is the longest running prank on his older brother, where he just pretends his entire life that he's afraid of the dark and these monsters, and realizes this is the perfect opportunity to
finally
make him believe in it.
Your plan. Yeah.
Yes.
So
What do you think of this
I will
scene?
say, so I don't know that maybe I picked up on it from like other movies that I've watched, but like even as a little kid, because a lot of this you can recall is like as a little kid, like you know, you feel like there's something behind you, so you run out of the room whenever you turn the lights off. But like making sure all of your appendages are tucked under the covers, even your head.
Yes.
I totally did that as a kid, so it
So I
definitely
never
plays
super
on the-
relatable.
I rarely covered my head. I would every once in a while, but I always made sure I didn't even like if my foot was out of the blanket, I didn't mind that. Still to this day, it kind of if it's cold, I don't like it because I'm cold. But if it's like a hot day, I'm like pop that bad boy out. But when I was a kid, after we watched it for the first time, I went upstairs to bed, and we're upstairs, and Zachary and I had twin beds at the time, separated twin beds. And I remember laying in the middle of my bed, not moving because I was afraid that fucking clown was going to come up and get me. I thought Pennywise was going to come out from under the bed and grab me. So I was like,
man,
that's
similar.
That was the one
experience.
movie when I was young. That was one of the movies that just terrified me. And then you rewatch it and you're like, oh man, that's not very very scary at all. But
It's not very
No,
scary, no.
You're right.
no,
like,
but as a kid,
It's fun.
as a kid, it was terrifying, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yes.
See, there's a scene in that movie that like every time I watch it, it just makes me laugh so hard. It's the bicycle scene
oh yeah,
where John is like,
Mhm.
Yes.
yeah,
or however he does it.
yeah. So
Anyway,
yeah.
or
Anyway,
John Boy, whatever.
yeah. Back to this. They end up back in the kitchen, of course. the home base. They go back to the kitchen, and then Heather goes to tuck him in, goes to tuck Ryan in, which is just really weird. And she's like, I'll go tuck him in. Come on, won't you go show me your traps? And she's really good with the kid, but it's like,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they're 16 and he's 12, you know. So then he takes him in there and he tells her basically the backstory. We find out the backstory of how this happened. I don't remember if he tells her or if he tells uh Dale, but we get the flashback. Okay, we get the flashback with Dale. And we skipped that, so we'll hit it now. Basically, when he was a little kid, he had a tank that fell down the stairs of the basement. So he went to get it, and he was attacked by the dark monsters, probably the cowboy guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his backstory. So he asks her if she's afraid of anything, and she says that her and her brother were attacked by dogs one time in the dark. And so this is where the movie kind of gets into Freddy Krueger territory. Where they start using their fear against them kind of thing. So she tucks him in. He says he set traps, so we get like just that seed planted. Oh, there's traps in the house, I guess. She goes out there with Dale, and they start like flirting and talking again. And he's like, "You're really good with the kids," They have their conversation, and then the cowboy guy attacks Ryan again, and has him like strangled up against the thing, and he's like hollering for him, "Help, help." They're trying to break in. They can't get in. Dale runs down to the generator to try to get the generator started. Meanwhile, he's trying to get in. So he uses a remote control, Ryan does, and flashes the dude, the cowboy man, with it, and he disappears and hides in the closet. So then he goes and turns on this string light. And then once the cowboy guy comes out of the closet, he uses it to net the cowboy guy, and he like vanishes into nothingness, seemingly killing him. Right? That's what it appears.
Yeah, that's what
it looks like is happening.
Yeah, seemingly killing him.
That's why I was confused at the end of the movie.
Yeah, so the cowboy guy, during their dialogue scene, she talks about, this is what you talked about earlier, Derek. She talks about how maybe they're driven by fear. Don't give them their fear, blah, blah. So that way, I guess that's the way to defeat them, which is similar to a movie we just watched last week, actually. Like it's the exact same thing.
Yes.
So he defeats him. He goes out and he's like, "Where's Dale?" And he's like, "He's down in the basement by himself." And he's like, "Oh, we got to get him." And she goes around the corner, and there's two dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And she's afraid of the dogs because it reminds her of when she was attacked by dogs when she was younger. So Ryan just runs past him. He's just keeps going. She's afraid. She can't move. And so then the dogs attack her from the other side. So we're intercutting between that and Dale, who had fallen down the stairs because he got tripped. His knee is busted, and he's trying to get to the generator, but he can't because he is attacked by this fucking old lady. This creepy old lady appears in the basement, which looks like it's out of a completely different movie. Can I just say?
Yeah, I think this is the movie that inspired James Wan to create films.
Somehow I highly doubt that.
That old lady, I was like, is this a James Wan movie?
Oh, man. Yeah, James Wan was making Saw by this point, I do believe. He was about to film Saw. yeah, he's attacked, and then so all these bugs come for some reason. I don't know what this is about, but bugs come.
You must be afraid of
These
bugs, is what I
I
got.
guess, but that's never mentioned. But these terrible CGI bugs come and just swarm him, and he's just like being swarmed by these CGI bugs. Ryan realizes that he's not afraid anymore of the dark, so he runs down to the basement, and they go to grab his feet like he says they do, and he just says, "I'm not afraid." So they let go, and then he runs downstairs and turns on the generator right as the dogs are about to attack her, Heather. Lights come on, all the evil villains are vanquished. Um, he goes over and talks to Dale, and Dale's like, you did it or whatever. And then they're like, oh, mom and dad are home conveniently. So he runs upstairs. Heather runs down, and they share their first kiss. Oh. And then we do like this transition to him in bed. And the parents are, it's like a Goosebumps wraparound. It's like the Goosebumps ending. They're all sitting around, and the parents are like, oh, you're grounded because you had a girl over. And, how'd you break your knee? I fell down the basement. Um, what have you. And then they leave, and then Dale and Ryan have a conversation where he's like, thanks for everything, you did it, whatever. And then he goes to leave, and he's like, hey, can you leave the light on? And Ryan says, don't you know what's in the
There's yeah,
what's in the
there's
light is in
nothing
the
there in the
dark.
dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It's in the light, it's in the dark. Isn't that what
there
it is?
there's nothing there in the dark that isn't there in the light.
That's it. There's nothing in the dark that isn't in the light. Yeah, that's it. So, and he shuts off the light. And then he looks around, looks under his bed, goes to lay down, and then cowboy guy is just standing there randomly. And we end. So what do you guys think of like the whole basement finale and the ending? You start, Lydia.
I think it's garbage. I think it's all garbage. And it really surprised me because I remember liking the end and I remember the bug scene. I remember the like whatever kind of bugs, beetles, cockroaches coming out of the vent in the
Mhm.
basement or the window coming in, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's really scary visually." And I thought I liked the end of this movie from my little memory.
Then you realize how kind of
um,
half baked it is.
it is not good.
What do you think,
It's
Derek?
yeah.
No, go ahead, Lydia,
Yeah.
if you have more to say.
No. Yeah, it's you're
Yeah.
right. It's half baked. It's like not
Quite
well.
done. Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Derek?
So you kind of have to fill in the gap with what you think is kind of going on. And what I mean by that is the transition that the other two characters make from not
Derek,
being
this
susceptible
transition.
to being susceptible to the things that are in the dark just happens so fast. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of out of
Yeah.
nowhere. So then, like my mind went to, like I'm trying to rationalize this because it doesn't really make that much sense. That they're being they're getting the impression from this younger kid that like, oh, there are things in the dark. That like maybe this house is kind of haunted to your point, or maybe like or whatever. Like this house is a hotbed for this. But either way, that's the biggest issue I think I have with the end of this movie is the transition. The other, especially Heather, because she isn't there for like most of this movie, and at least Dale could be, could have been susceptible through this movie to make that transition because he at the end of the movie is the one who's afraid of the dark. It kind of does a
Hmm.
reversal, so
Yeah.
that part was
Yeah.
really confusing.
That's actually a good point with Heather, that doesn't make any logical sense at all because she hasn't been afraid of the dark this whole time, and then she just randomly is. Um, Here's my problem with the end of the movie. Like you said, it's garbage, Lydia, but it's because the execution is not good. But worse than that, it's because there's no discernible third act. Like I don't even think there's a second act.
I think you just mentioned. I think they got lost in
Hmm.
what they were trying, where they were trying to go with this. I think
Yes.
they got lost, and then
I
it's just like, well,
agree.
we have to wrap this up, so it's really rushed.
Yeah, what I feel like is that this wasn't a final draft script. I feel like the
Hmm.
That is
script
totally
is
accurate too.
a first draft, maybe even a second draft. I don't feel like this is a polished script. I think the character beats are there for a lot of it, for the kind of movie they wanted to make, but like there's no discernible like act breaks, which is fine. You don't necessarily have to have act breaks, but you want there to be a flow to the movie, and there's not really. It's the first act, which is all them setting up everything, and there's not a scare to be seen in that whole first act besides the
Hmm.
opening. It's just character stuff. And then when the stuff starts to happen, shifting into the second act is just the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
Like just it's hard to remember it because it's like from here to there, from here to there. But with the third act, it's like usually you would build up to we need this is our mission. This is what we need to do, right? Like, so
Yeah.
this is the mission. This is what needs to happen. Or even a epiphany. I know how to beat them. They'd be
Hmm.
attacked, and so he flashes the light at them, or drops. The light touches them and it burns him. So you'd be like, oh, light. You physically touching lights hurt them. So I think that if we have the light hit them, it can kill them. So then you have like a goal, a quest to
Hmm.
to drive your story forward. Um, there wasn't that in this. It's just as he goes to bed, then is attacked, and then says, "I'm not afraid anymore."
Like the
After he
entire
defeats the one
mission,
monster.
yeah, the entire mission was, or point to the movie was to have the one who's afraid not be afraid and the one who's not afraid to be afraid.
Yeah,
And then
and
they did
that's
not care about the rest.
yeah, and they didn't care about the. So here's my big question, and you guys are gonna hate this once I mentioned it, and I think you might already know. Why didn't they turn on the generator as soon as the power went out?
The generator only worked on the outside lights, though, right? Didn't he say
No,
that? Like the
no, I don't know.
floodlights or
No,
something?
I don't know. It seemed to work. All the lights were on at the end, and like I just don't know why
Maybe
they.
if I were gonna guess, I would think that maybe, especially for Dale, not believing, maybe he didn't have that sense of urgency that, oh yeah, well, we'll get to it in a minute. I mean, it's not a big deal. The lights went out. I don't know. I'm
Listen,
grasping.
if my little brother was acting like that and he was afraid, I would I would turn it on A to make him feel better, B so he'd quit annoying me, and C so I could go upstairs and play my crappy guitar again. or watch TV. Are you kidding me? So it's like that. I mean, hey, it is what it is. But if that was the goal, if they needed to get there, that should have been a bigger point. Like, hey, we need to get to this generator. Maybe have them try to get to it multiple times. They just can't get to it because they keep getting stopped and attacked. Then when they finally make the big break for it, the third act can occur. But it's just not. It wasn't there. So also not a fan of the ending as either. And the last scare just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. I mean, I guess that guy is just the light didn't kill him. It just made him go away. And I guess if that guy sees him, he just has to say, "I'm not afraid," and then it goes away.
But then, like,
Like one does.
why? So, okay, so these creatures feed on fear
I
and
guess. And human
live
flesh, apparently.
in the dark. Well, I think that kid was just like
Yeah.
maybe generalizing and being like, they eat your flesh.
They eat you.
I don't, he's like, I don't know because I've only ever been scratched by them. But I'm assuming they want to eat me. Okay. So he doesn't know. Like, that's not, I'm not counting that as a rule of these guys. Okay. The other kid that got killed had a heart attack. He didn't actually get eaten. So they feed on your fear. They live in the dark, maybe interdimensionally. You can't kill them with light or probably with anything. What else? What else do we got on these guys? I mean, that's it.
If you're not afraid of you, if you're not afraid of them, they leave you alone.
Right. And like everybody else, like the adults don't realize that their house is super haunted. You know, the statues are moving and cutting people. Like these random things that don't follow the rules
Yeah. There's not
happen.
a really clear defined set of rules is the problem.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And there was no solution to
There
the
no
problem that we
solution
didn't
to
know.
any of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you know what? I think that point you made is probably the one that is most accurate. Is this was not a polished script because if you're going to make a movie like this, I feel like you have to first create the mythology, create the rules, and then you write your script. It just doesn't
And
feel
you
like
don't even need to completely explain every rule. But if you make a
no.
backstory and you have a set of rules that you follow, then it's going to seem more believable and it's going to make more sense because you, as the writer, are saying, okay, so they can do this, but they can't do that. So you don't make them overpowered and be able to do everything, right? So you set yourself some parameters. No, I feel like it is yeah, I think that's probably the case that it wasn't the. It doesn't feel like a shooting script. Here's actually I'll tell you my biggest problem or my thoughts on it when it gets to my turn for rating it. But while we're here, let's start that process. Let's start with you, Derek. What is your rating? Since that way you won't be skewed. What do you think of this movie and what's your rating?
I'm gonna give this movie a 6 because it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen in my life, but like it had like I really enjoy movies like or TV shows like Goosebumps. I mean within the last couple of years watched a couple episodes of the Goosebumps series. And I loved Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like there's some nostalgic pieces to this. Also, there's a lot of like going back to those childhood fears that all three of us share. I'm sure we're not the only ones. There's a little bit of those aspects of the movie. I think we're going to put in there, but man, the execution is pretty poor. And what really takes me out of the movie is the special effects. I would have tried if I were them to have done more with practical effects.
What about the shots? They don't take you out of
it.
it. They took me all out of every time one of those wacky shots happened. It took me right out of the scene.
I didn't.
They did do.
Go ahead, Lydia.
Go ahead.
They did do a good job on the makeup. I thought.
Yeah.
On the cowboy character, he was freaky.
Yeah, he was kind of generic, evil guy, but yeah, it was well done.
He has like a long chin. Gross.
So you gave it a 6, Derek? You have anything else to add?
Yep. Nope. I do feel like it is a good movie. If you're making like you're preteen, maybe I don't know how desensitized they are now to all the stuff that's come out, but like I definitely feel like Lydia being 9, this would have been a very appropriate movie for a 9-year-old to watch in the early 2000s.
Lydia, what is your rating and what are your thoughts on Fear of the Dark?
So I think I'm going to give this movie a 6 also. Because I can't give it lower score than Derek, and I can't
That's
give it a
terrible
higher score
logic.
than 6.
You guys
I can't do it. So I'm gonna say 6. I was kind of leaning in that area anyways because I had a really good time watching this. Um yeah, I mean I think we just went over just about everything there is wrong with this movie, but I really enjoyed it anyways, and I appreciate you guys taking my consideration on this one and giving this one a second watch.
Okay, so my turn.
Yes.
So I think there's some good ideas in this movie for sure. And I had a pretty good time watching it, except for the whole second act. I checked the time multiple times because I was like, there wasn't no forward momentum. So I was like, how long is this movie? What is going on? Like I just feel like we're kind of running in place. I don't. So that seemed pretty long to me. We talked about the problems we have with a lot of it, and here's my idea for this. I think this would have been a better episode of Goosebumps than it is a full length feature. I don't think
I
there's
agree.
enough material to stretch this out to feature length.
I
I
agree.
think that was the problem. I think it
Yeah.
was they tried to make a feature. They wanted it to be feature length, but it's there's just not enough there. They had enough story for probably an hour, you know, which is why the second act is just them going to someplace back to the kitchen, someplace back to the kitchen. Um,
Hmm.
so I think that would have been better. Having said all that, I don't think this is the worst movie we reviewed by a long shot. We've got a couple in season one that are a doozies. But I don't think my grade's going to be lower than you guys because I think 6 is like a good solid horror movie. 6 is like a good solid fun time scary movie, and this is just not scary. I mean, it's for made for kids, and that's great, and I love that feel. And I love all of that. I think that would have been great, but um,
You give it a
I'm going to give it a
5.99.
5. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, because it's not as bad as Popcorn. It's not as bad as Children of the Night.
Oh,
Um,
all the movies I picked, I see how it is.
yeah, I think those are the two worst ones that we've done. I do believe it's definitely not as boring as the Pet Cemetery remake, um, and not as terrible as the Fog. So the Fog remake, which is just
Oh yeah.
horrendous and boring.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, it's really bad. We you know what? We let that one we've been letting that one slide. That shit can't slide. That's a terrible one. That's on par with Popcorn and shit. Okay? I mean, it's more competently made, but it has a bigger budget, but it's more boring than those. So,
yeah. It
um
makes it worse that it had a bigger budget and still
yeah,
was a terrible
this
movie.
yeah, definitely. This I feel like is a good concept. I feel like if they had more money, they could have done more with it. And if they would have let that script cook for a little longer, or cut their losses and made it a TV series, a TV show, an episode of a TV show, an anthology of some sort.
Hmm.
Because there's a good idea, some good thoughts in there, and I think the actors are pretty good. I love the setting. Like it kind of reminds me of the new Annabelle Come Home. Like, you know, you're kind of in like a haunted house with the babysitter, and this is going. I love that shit. I think that's fun. It reminds me of a similar movie that we'll have to talk about at some point. Boogeyman.
Hmm.
You guys remember Boogeyman from the 2000s, from
Yes.
the same era? We'll have to talk about that. It's kind of there's some similar themes, um, what have you. So yeah, I give it a. I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. because I don't hate it at all. There's some fun in there, and I think I like the spooky fun atmosphere. It's just that it's all over the place, and that the direction is just so distracting to me. I can't, man. I just can't with the. And there's some shots like we didn't talk about it, but there's shots that are just in slow motion for no reason. Like he's walking down this at one point. The kid's walking down the stairs, and it's just slow motion walking down the stairs. I was like, what the fuck? Why is that a thing?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
scene in this movie, and I'm trying to think of where it was, and I had to like stop and think, did like my internet like slow down or what have you? Because it felt like it just I don't know, it was weird, but I forget where it was. Anyway,
Yeah, there's a couple of
I know.
those where they do like some speed ramps. Then there's some where they just
Mhm.
slow it down, and I'm just like, huh? But yeah, any last thoughts on Fear of the Dark? I mean, I had fun
I
watching it.
think, yeah, and that's what I just want to say. Why my rating is so high for it is because of nostalgia purposes. I think if you're like us and you're like from, if you're just feel, sometimes you just get a mood where you're like, I need like a 90, like 90s vibe kind of movie with some maybe a little 2000s sprinkled in it because that's what this felt like. It felt like a 90s movie,
Hmm.
you know, with some 2000
There's some
rock
2000 vibes in
metal.
there. I felt like the 2000s had like a string of these style of movies. The aforementioned Boogeyman being one, and Darkness Falls being another, which is
Yeah.
kind
Oh,
of
Darkness
similar,
Falls.
kind of similar, in similar tone, except it's more aimed towards older teens. But there's these
Hmm.
teen horror movies that came out around this time.
Hmm.
Uh, and I mean, horror movies are aimed at teens usually. I mean, the slasher movies that we love were aimed at teenagers, which is fucking hilarious. Come watch Jason slaughter some folks. Make out with your boyfriend. Um, but yeah, we might we'll probably dig into more of those early 2000s that kind of stink, that kind of have a little bit of a, turd smell on them, but are, still fun. Kind of still a little bit of a fun time. All right. Well, guys, now it's time. Well, this is going to be the easiest one yet to Atkinize Fear of the Dark. Who would Tom Atkins play? There's really only one guy, right?
The dad.
Ryan, of course. No. Yeah, he'd have to be the dad, obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's
And I
only
think
like
he would do
five
that well.
characters in this movie.
He'd probably
He'd
have a
be
better tie.
he would 100% have a better tie, and he'd
Just
be
wear that
cooler.
green cardigan. You'd be fine.
Yeah, wear the green cardigan. Just, I think he'd just be. I could see him delivering that the dialogue scene to the son better. You know,
Yeah.
he could be more empathetic at certain points, and then be kind of, a little more stern when he needed to be, and just because the dad, I think, is the weakest actor in the movie, honestly.
I mean, he doesn't have a lot of scenes,
Not
a
a
lot
lot to
of
do.
screen time,
Yeah,
but
not
yeah,
a lot
I,
to do.
I agree.
And the mom is just kind of there too. I mean, the parents are there to just leave so that way that gives the kid agencies to experience the scares. So that's fine. No big deal. But
Yep.
You
Tom
know what
Atkins,
I recognize him from?
what
Exorcist 3.
is he? Who does he
The
play in
dad.
Exorcist
Yeah.
3? Who's he playing that?
Let me see here. It says Patient X possessed,
That's who I
which
thought.
says
Yes.
everything.
Yeah, he is the so Patient X is essentially played by three characters, right? Because
Right.
it's
Yes.
Damien, it's the Brad Dourif's character, then there's the actual guy, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
he's the actual guy. Okay.
He's the guy.
Yeah, he's the guy when Brad Dourif doesn't come out. and when Father Damien doesn't come out. We have to do The Exorcist 3. We haven't even done the first one. We need to get to that.
Yeah,
Then we
we'll
have to do the
definitely get
shit
to
ass
that.
second one. So that'll be fun.
We might just
So
skip
yeah,
that one.
that's Aconized. The movie's been Aconized. We'll just skip it. We're completionists here. We have to do all of them. So Derek, it is your pick next.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you going to do?
Oh, took me a while to figure out what I was going to do, and I was like, man, what movie could we do to really follow up this movie? And I was like,
I know what you're
there's
going to
only
pick.
one.
Remember. God damn it.
Lumberjack Man.
You guys live to
Yep,
torture me.
Lumberjack Man. You don't know what pancakes is.
You don't know what
What
breakfast is.
Lumberjack Man?
You don't know. Yeah, you don't know what breakfast is.
Lumberjack Man is this silly horror comedy, slasher movie.
Yeah.
Starring Michael Madsen about a lumberjack that kills people with pancakes.
And Lydia, you will never get what his super duper weakness is.
Yeah, it is.
Maple syrup.
You don't ruin it yet.
Oh no.
There's a spoiler for everybody.
We'll cut
That's
that. Don't
okay.
worry.
So you know.
We'll cut it.
Lydia, you didn't hear anything.
What year? What year did that come out?
You can't find it?
There's one that came out in 2015. Is that the one you're talking
That's
about?
the one.
I did. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I didn't expect it to be new. It sounds like something old. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's a new one. It's
Oh
a new
my-
movie. Newer. I mean, it's, nearly 7 years old now. But yeah. Lumberjack Man.
Okay. This should be
I've watched this a
interesting,
couple of
guys.
times. It's not the it's fun. I mean, we'll get into it. Couple different picks for my next one. I have brewing. So
You're like, I got to get
We'll
that
see.
as red.
definitely, I've got to get us into some good stuff. This one wasn't bad. This wasn't a painful experience. This was nothing like when I had to sit through Pet Sematary for our pilot. That was hard to get through. I remember literally sitting down to watch it and being like, "Oh my god, like this is hard." And then the popcorn and Children of the Night. I had fun with each of those a little bit too, but I like when we do like the Blob and shit because then have a good time.
The Blob was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Blob's a great one. Yeah, what to do
Just looking
another?
back.
Yep, The Thing was a great one. That's a fun one to watch. So yeah, we'll after Lumberjack Man, I'll do my best to make it another solid one, maybe. Actually, I think one of the most funs I had was when we watched Nightmare on Elm Street, and I really enjoyed Hatchet because you had never seen it, and I enjoyed watching you talk about it. So yeah, guys, that is Fear of the Dark. It's fun. It's light. It's non-consequential.
It's dark.
And it's not dark. That's the problem. It's not dark. It's afraid to be dark, and it's
It's afraid to be dark.
and it's a mess.
That's what
But
it should be called.
It's fine. Afraid to be dark. We might have to do Little Monsters at some point. That's a good kids, spooky-ish, fun movie.
Well, if we're doing Little Monsters, we're doing Mr. Boogedy too. So
Doing what?
Mr. Boogedy?
Oh God, not Mr. Boogedy. You and your fucking Mr. Boogedy.
Yeah. Dude, Mr. Boogedy is worth that.
We'll talk about that another time.
Or Brian Boogedy. We could do that one too.
See what I have to deal with. I'm over here
Are
trying to
those
think
kids'
of.
movies?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they scary?
No.
No.
No. Okay. Well then, don't know about it.
Yeah, not at all. Not even. Not even. So this is scarier than those movies, for sure.
Yeah.
This
Good.
just wasn't. I don't know. I had fun with it. It's not. I mean, it's definitely not scary. Obviously, it's not aimed towards me, but it was fun. So that's our show for this week. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Get your merch at here. Society6.com/Night Sky Crafts. Yeah, I got it. Follow me on Twitter at Racket, Rakkет. Follow Derek on Twitter at DDogLeemaster. It's right there in the screen. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at Hyla Productions. Follow us on Instagram at Scream Bloody Movies. Follow all of the news that we're going to have coming out. That'll be all on the Facebook page. We also go to hylaproductions.com and you can watch any of the shorts that we've already created, plus episodes of the show as well. So we're working on it. Soon we'll have the ratings for each episode on there as well. We have some big news coming up with the movie. I know I say that every week, but I've really been working really hard to get this post-production. The post-production schedule is hard, but we're plowing through. It's looking better and better each day. And we'll have some more news on that too. So stay safe out there in viewing land. Stay out of the dark. Have a flashlight. If they attack you, remember not to be afraid because it's just a fucking guy in a cowboy hat.
Yeah. And be smarter than this dad and don't spend $500 on a tiny ass flashlight.
Yeah. Why wasn't that? Why wasn't that like a mag light or something, right? Yeah. Wasn't mag light if it was $500 or like a laser? They have lasers that can cut through stuff now.
Spotlight.
Yeah. See, already better than the dad. Remember, guys, if you're going to scream bloody movie. You hesitated so bad. You were like, should I do it? Should I do it? No, I shouldn't. Scream bloody movies. Goodbye, folks.